In the last 4 years since entering the Indian smartphone market, Xiaomi has now become the largest smartphone maker in the country with more than 30% market share. But the one area it hasn't managed to crack has been the premium 30,000 plus smartphone category. In fact, it is OnePlus that's been killing it in that segment. It launches 2 phones every year focusing just on that segment. And the OnePlus 6, which launched earlier in the year, is the best smartphone and best-selling smartphone in that category. But now Xiaomi is refocusing its energies on this segment. So much so that it's creating a new brand called POCO, launching first here in India. Essentially, you're getting the same specs as the OnePlus 6. Yes, this top-of-the-line version gets 256 GB storage, 8 GB RAM, and also a micro SD card reader inside. Also, this has got a very cool Kevlar back. Design-wise, it is a little inferior to the OnePlus 6. The OnePlus 6 has a gorgeous metal and glass finish. This has got injection molded polycarbonate. It's also a little chubby at 8.8 mm and it's a little hefty overall. But the good thing out here is that you don't need to slap on a case on this. It's got some level of water resistance, splash resistance. So if you drop water on this, it's going to be just fine. And overall, you also get a bezel-less screen. Like the OnePlus 6 out here, even the POCO F1 has a full bezel-less screen out here, and it also gets the dreaded notch. But the notch out here is slightly bigger. Why? Because it's got an infrared blaster which will help the face unlock work better in dark situations. You don't need to light up the screen. The infrared blaster is going to do all the legwork. Now this is a similar approach to the iPhone 10 and also the Galaxy Note 9 and the S9. The difference being out here is this is an LCD panel. It's a 6.1 inch LCD with a full HD resolution. The OnePlus 6 has an OLED screen. It's got a 6.3 inch display, slightly bigger. Great viewing angles, great contrast, good levels of brightness. In the larger scheme of things, if you're going to watch Netflix, this is going to be fantastic. If you're going to watch YouTube, this is going to be great. If you're going to read text, this is going to be just fine. And if you're going to play PUBG, this will cause you no issues. But what's interesting out here is that this phone gets a heat pipe, which is currently only there in the Note 9. Now that allows for incredible sustained performance. Say you're playing a game like PUBG, playing it for long hours, and of course on this phone you can really go to town with that because it's got a 4000 mAh battery. You don't need to worry about battery life, so you can just play on and on and on. And sustained performance is actually everything. It's not peak performance, which manufacturers talk about. They don't talk about sustained performance because usually their phones aren't delivering it, and it is definitely not sexy. This phone is an absolute screamer. And what helps more is that Xiaomi has added some more customizations like this app drawer, which they call the POCO Launcher, which is exclusive for this phone. They'll be releasing it on the Google Play Store so that if you have some other Android phone, you can use it on that. So it basically is mimicking the user interface of the Google Pixel. That's something very unique about the POCO F1. Very un-Xiaomi-like, but amazing and super awesome. Last week when Xiaomi launched this phone, the Mi A2, it said this phone had the best cameras they had put on a device in India. Well, that kind of changes with this one now. This 12 megapixel sensor they have is the same one as the Mi 8, which they've launched in China, which is essentially their flagship phone. It's a Sony IMX363 sensor coupled with an f1.9 aperture, and the secondary camera is a 5 megapixel camera for depth sensing for portrait mode. And overall the photos are better than the OnePlus 6 in daylight and on par with it in low light situations. despite it not having an optically stabilized lens. Now that's just fantastic. The areas that it pulls ahead of the OnePlus 6 is actually that it's got an AI mode which detects scenes and optimizes all the settings automatically without you knowing your way around the cameras. That's super cool. And front camera is a 20 megapixel sensor which does a lot of pixel binning magic to take some great photos, great selfies with a lot of contrast and dynamic range. Well, in situations that you need dynamic range for selfies. Get this, for around 45,000 rupees, you can get the top of the line OnePlus 6 Avengers Edition model, which gets 256GB storage and 8GB RAM. But then there is this, the top of the line POCO F1, which also gets 256GB storage, 8GB RAM, also expandable memory, this Kevlar back, same Qualcomm Snapdragon 845 processor, all for 35% lesser. Do the math. I believe Xiaomi with the POCO F1 has hit a home run, and my friends at OnePlus should be really worried.